People love calling themselves lazy. Cute word, isn't it? Makes the damage sound harmless. But laziness isn't what's killing your dreams. Your mind learned something far more dangerous a long time ago. How to run. Run from rejection. Run from failure. Run from embarrassment. Run from that little voice whispering, "What if you try and still aren't enough?" So you scroll, you sleep, you delay, you laugh things off. Not because you don't care, but because caring hurts when you've trained yourself to expect pain at the end of every effort. And the funniest part? Everyone claps for the escape. Take it easy. Protect your peace. Don't stress yourself. Meanwhile, your potential sits in a dark corner of your mind like a hostage, watching you choose comfort over becoming who you were supposed to be. They told you that you were lazy so many times that eventually you started wearing the label like it belonged to you. Teachers said you had potential, but no discipline. Family members compared you to people who woke up earlier, worked harder, smiled wider. Friends joked about how you always delay things, always disappear when life becomes difficult. And after hearing it enough times, you stopped questioning it. You accepted the diagnosis without understanding the disease. But laziness is just a pretty word people use when they don't understand pain. Because if they admitted you were hurting instead of lazy, then they'd have to admit how many broken people are walking around pretending to be functional. See, nobody wakes up one day and decides to destroy their own future for entertainment. Nobody truly enjoys watching opportunities rot, while guilt slowly eats them alive at 3 a.m. People don't procrastinate because relaxation feels magical. They procrastinate because action became emotionally dangerous. Somewhere along the way, your brain learned that effort leads to pain. Maybe you tried your hardest once and got humiliated anyway. Maybe you trusted people who laughed at your ambition. Maybe you failed publicly. Maybe you grew up in an environment where mistakes were treated like crimes instead of lessons. So your mind adapted. Clever little thing, the human brain. It said, all right, if trying hurts this much, maybe we should stop trying before the pain arrives. And that's where the escape began. Not dramatic escape. Not movie-style running in the rain. Quiet escape. Invisible escape. The kind that hides behind harmless habits. Endless scrolling. Sleeping too much. Waiting for motivation. Starting tomorrow. Watching everybody else build lives while you stay mentally parked in the same place year after year. It doesn't even feel like self-destruction anymore, because society normalized it. They packaged distraction into entertainment and sold it to you as comfort. Every notification became anesthesia. Every short video became another tiny sedative, keeping you numb enough not to notice your own disappointment. The terrifying part is your brain rewards the escape. That's the joke. Every time you avoid discomfort, your mind says, good job, you survived. Even when survival is costing you your future. You think you're choosing comfort, but comfort is choosing who you become. Weakness isn't always loud. Sometimes weakness looks like staying in bed, convincing yourself you'll change once life feels easier. Sometimes weakness looks like pretending not to care, because caring would expose how afraid you really are. And fear. Oh, fear is a brilliant actor. It wears different masks every day. Sometimes it calls itself perfectionism, sometimes overthinking, sometimes exhaustion. But underneath every mask is the same terrified voice begging you not to risk emotional pain again. Because your mind remembers every embarrassment, every rejection, every moment you looked stupid for believing in yourself. People think trauma only comes from catastrophic events. No, repeated disappointment can train a person to emotionally retreat from life itself. That's why some people sit in front of opportunities and feel physically heavy. It's not because they lack ambition. It's because their nervous system associates effort with danger. Their brain isn't asking, can we succeed? It's asking, can we survive failing again? So they escape before the battle even begins, and the world misunderstands them completely. Society worships productivity, but ignores psychology. They celebrate results while mocking invisible wounds. They see unfinished goals, but not the fear attached to starting. They see avoidance, but not the emotional conditioning behind it. Calling someone lazy is easier than understanding what repeated pain does to the human mind. Easier than admitting that some people became masters at self-protection long before they ever had the chance to become anything else. Comfort is addictive because it never argues with you. It never challenges you. It never tells you uncomfortable truths about who you're becoming. Comfort wraps itself around your mind like a soft little prison and whispers, "Relax, you've suffered enough." And honestly, that voice sounds beautiful after years of disappointment, after rejection, after failure. After life punches holes through your confidence so many times that exhaustion starts feeling safer than hope. People think weakness enters dramatically, like some villain kicking down the door. No, weakness enters politely, quietly. It asks if it can stay for one night, and suddenly it's been living inside your life for 10 years. That's the problem with comfort. It doesn't destroy you immediately. If it did, everyone would run from it. Instead, it slowly disconnects you from your own potential while convincing you that you're healing. You tell yourself you're taking a break. Then the break becomes your lifestyle. You say you'll start next week, next month, next year. Meanwhile, your mind adapts to inactivity like water, adapting to the shape of a container. Human beings are terrifyingly adaptable creatures. You can adapt to greatness, or you can adapt to mediocrity. Both eventually start feeling normal. And once comfort becomes normal, discipline starts feeling offensive. That's why people get angry when life demands effort from them. Their minds have been trained to avoid resistance at all costs. A difficult conversation feels unbearable. A challenge feels unfair. A setback feels personal. Because comfort lowered their tolerance for discomfort so badly that even small obstacles begin to feel like suffering. The scary part? Most people don't even realize this is happening. They think they're protecting their peace while secretly weakening their ability to face reality. See, the human brain works like a machine that remembers patterns. Every time you choose comfort over growth, your brain records it. Every time you avoid difficulty, your brain says, "Excellent, we escaped danger again." That reward system becomes stronger with repetition. Eventually, you don't even consciously choose comfort anymore. You become programmed by it. The alarm rings, snooze. Opportunity appears, hesitation. Hard work calls, distraction. Your body starts craving ease, the same way addicts crave substances. And society feeds the addiction beautifully. Everything around you is engineered to keep you comfortable. Endless entertainment, instant gratification, fast dopamine, quick pleasure. Nobody wants you patient anymore because patience doesn't sell. Nobody wants you disciplined because disciplined people are harder to control. Weak minds consume more. Distracted minds obey more. Exhausted minds question less. So the world hands you comfort in every possible form while quietly stealing your focus, ambition, and attention span one piece at a time. Then one day you wake up feeling empty without understanding why. Because comfort never fulfills people. It only sedates them. There's a difference. Fulfillment comes from struggle, growth, overcoming resistance, building something meaningful despite difficulty. But comfort removes resistance from your life. And without resistance, human beings slowly decay mentally. Muscles weaken without tension. Minds weaken without challenge. Confidence weakens without risk. You cannot become strong while constantly protecting yourself from discomfort. And the worst illusion of all, comfort convinces you that avoiding pain means avoiding damage. But avoiding pain often creates deeper pain later. The student avoiding study suffers failure. The person avoiding hard conversations suffers loneliness. The dreamer avoiding risk suffers regret. Temporary comfort creates permanent consequences. That's the trade nobody talks about. So people spend years hiding inside routines that slowly destroy them. Same excuses, same distractions, same empty promises to themselves. They laugh loudly in public but feel hollow in silence. Because deep down they know they abandoned parts of themselves out of fear. Not fear of hard work, fear of discomfort, fear of uncertainty, fear of discovering whether they were truly capable or not. Because trying means risking disappointment. And comfort protects you from disappointment by making sure you never fully try. People love saying things like, "That's just who I am." Funny phrase. Makes permanent prison sound so natural. "I'm just a procrastinator. I'm bad at consistency. I always quit." As if personality is carved into stone somewhere deep inside your bones. But most of what you call personality is just repetition wearing a mask. Habits repeated long enough begin to feel like identity. And once a behavior feels like identity, changing it starts feeling like betrayal. That's how survival mechanisms take over people's lives. You weren't born avoiding things. You learned it, slowly, carefully. Pain trained you the same way trainers condition animals, through repetition and emotional association. Maybe every time you spoke confidently as a child, someone mocked you. Maybe failure embarrassed you publicly. Maybe love disappeared whenever you disappointed someone. So your brain began collecting evidence. Speaking up is dangerous. Trying is risky. Attention leads to humiliation. Human beings don't just remember events. They remember emotions attached to events. That emotional memory becomes programming. And eventually, the programming starts operating automatically. That's why some people freeze before opportunities without understanding why. Why they suddenly feel tired when important work appears. Why motivation disappears the second something becomes emotionally risky. They think they lack discipline, but what they really lack is emotional safety. Their nervous system learned to associate certain actions with pain, rejection, shame, or failure. So the mind creates escape routes before the danger even arrives. That's what habits really are for many people. Protective systems. Overthinking protects you from making risky decisions. Procrastination protects you from immediate failure. Emotional detachment protects you from rejection. Perfectionism protects you from criticism. Because if nothing is ever finished, nothing can ever be judged. Even laziness can become a shield. If you never fully try, then failure never fully defines you. Your brain says, at least we can pretend we would succeeded if we actually cared. Beautiful little defense mechanism, isn't it? Tragic too, because survival mechanisms don't ask whether they're ruining your future. Their only job is to reduce immediate emotional discomfort. The brain prioritizes survival over happiness every single time. If your mind believes avoiding risk keeps you emotionally safe, it will sabotage opportunities without hesitation. And it does this so subtly that most people spend years blaming themselves instead of understanding themselves. Look closely at human behavior, and you'll notice something disturbing. Many people are not living consciously. They're reacting automatically from old emotional wounds they never healed. A person who is constantly criticized may become addicted to perfection. A person who grew up feeling powerless may become controlling. Someone abandoned emotionally may stop trusting people completely. The habits become armor, heavy armor. The kind people wear so long they forget there's still a human body underneath it. And armor is exhausting to carry. That's why people feel mentally drained even when they haven't done much physically. Internal survival mode consumes enormous energy. Constantly avoiding pain, overanalyzing situations, suppressing emotions, distracting yourself from reality. All of it burns energy quietly. Then people wonder why they can't focus, why they can't stay consistent, why they feel emotionally numb. Their mind has been surviving for so long that it forgot how to actually live. The terrifying part is survival habits often get rewarded by society. The emotionally detached person gets called strong. The workaholic gets praised for ambition. The people pleaser gets labeled kind. Nobody notices the fear underneath the behavior because the behavior itself looks functional on the surface, but underneath, panic, insecurity, fear of rejection, fear of worthlessness, fear of being exposed as not enough. And after years of repeating these patterns, people stop questioning them. They defend them, protect them, build entire identities around them. Because admitting your habits were survival mechanisms means admitting your life has been controlled by fear more than freedom. That realization terrifies people. It's easier to keep pretending your limitations are personality traits than confront the pain that created them in the first place. Most people think growth begins with motivation. That's adorable. They wait for inspiration like it's some magical visitor that knocks on the door one random morning and suddenly transforms them into disciplined, fearless human beings. So they keep waiting, waiting to feel confident, waiting to feel ready, waiting for fear to disappear. Meanwhile, life keeps moving without asking permission. Days turn into years, and eventually people become experts at imagining change instead of living it. Because growth does not begin when you feel comfortable. Growth begins the exact moment comfort loses its control over you. That's the war nobody prepares you for. Not the war against the world. The war against your own instinct to escape discomfort. Your mind has spent years building emergency exits for every difficult emotion. Anxiety appears, distract yourself. Fear appears, delay action. Rejection appears, shut down emotionally. Failure appears, convince yourself you never cared anyway. Escape became automatic because pain became unbearable somewhere in your past. And human beings will do almost anything to avoid emotional pain. That's why people stay in toxic relationships, why they abandon dreams halfway through, why they sabotage opportunities right before success. Pain avoidance controls more lives than ambition ever will. People don't choose comfort because it makes them happy. They choose it because discomfort reminds them of wounds they never healed. Every challenge wakes up old fears. Every risk threatens old insecurities. Every difficult step forces them to confront parts of themselves they spent years hiding from. So the mind says, retreat. Retreat into entertainment. Retreat into excuses. Retreat into routines so predictable they require no courage. The brain loves predictability because predictability feels safe. Even miserable routines can become comforting if they're familiar enough. That's why some people stay trapped in cycles they hate. The pain they know feels safer than the uncertainty they don't. But growth demands uncertainty. Growth demands that you move before confidence arrives, that you act while your hands shake, that you continue even when your mind screams for escape. And honestly, that feels horrifying when your nervous system has been trained to associate discomfort with danger. People think courage means absence of fear. No, courage is dragging yourself forward while fear tears through your chest like broken glass. That's why growth feels violent sometimes. Not physically violent, internally violent. Because you are fighting programming built over years. Every time you wake up early instead of hiding in comfort, your brain resists. Every time you face rejection instead of avoiding it, your nervous system panics. Every time you choose discipline over distraction, old habits scream for survival. People expect transformation to feel beautiful and empowering all the time. Usually it feels ugly, frustrating, exhausting, like tearing old skin away from your identity, because escaping discomfort became part of who you are. And when you stop escaping, you start meeting yourself for the first time. The real self underneath the distractions, underneath the excuses, underneath the defense mechanisms. That version of you has been buried under years of avoidance, waiting for a single moment of honesty. A single moment where you stop blaming laziness, stop blaming circumstances, stop blaming motivation, and finally admit the truth. You were trained to fear discomfort more than you desired growth. That realization changes everything, because now the enemy becomes visible. It's no longer I'm lazy. It becomes my mind-learned survival patterns that no longer serve me. And once you see the pattern, every small act of discipline becomes rebellion against the old version of yourself. Every uncomfortable action becomes proof that fear no longer owns you completely. That's why real growth is never soft. It's uncomfortable by nature. It forces you to sit inside uncertainty without running away. It forces you to fail publicly sometimes, to feel embarrassed, rejected, exposed. But every time you survive discomfort instead of escaping it, your brain slowly learns a new lesson. Maybe pain isn't the thing that destroys you. Maybe running from it is.